Hi, everyone. I have a very interesting guest for my podcast. Not my usual, but someone that is very close to my heart, to my family. It's my youngest son who is preparing. His name is Varun, and he's preparing to leave for uh, a big championship in what they call the Worlds, right? When is the Worlds?
Worlds is it's a 5-day tournament, but it starts December 9th.
Where is that located?
It's in California, in Anaheim.
Okay, so a little bit about the kind of tournament he's going into. So he is a fighter and he specializes in the area of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. He's quite high ranked in the world, and he's been doing it since he was 7 years old, and he's 19 now, and he's been focusing on this area for a very long period of time. And I think it's important that, I suppose we're not sort of showcasing your prowess on this, but more about the mentality to stick to something and to work at it. And I think a lot of people can take away, there's a lot of lessons to be learned from people who focus on one thing and move towards becoming really, really good at it. And some become world champions and some don't. But it's an interesting journey that you went on. And I think it would be interesting to know that you didn't always have this kind of mindset. It took some time before you actually arrived and where you actually knew this is what you wanted to do. And before that, you were pretty much in a comfort zone. So let's sort of talk about, you've been doing this since 7 years old, and you struggled to find the sport that appealed to you. You went from one to the other, and this was something that you didn't even, I suppose, you weren't really that motivated when you first started, and it was actually your older brother who had a good word to you that sorted you out. So
Yeah.
what actually happened? Because there's a lot of people who think, you go straight into something and you master it and you get motivated and you are all 100%. Doesn't reflect reality in life. What actually happened?
So I was basically like at the start, obviously, like you love it and just like you do it like once or twice a week. It's like a hobby,
Yes.
And just like you're having fun. And obviously, I was like 6 or 7 at the time, so you're just like, I was being like a little idiot, just not doing much, not being like, of course, you're not gonna be super productive or anything at the class, but I was like quite I was just, what do you call it? Basically like a 6-year-old Satan in the class.
Yes.
And just basically I wasn't very focused, running around, just like doing a lot of stuff that I wasn't necessarily supposed to be doing.
Yes.
And like eventually one day, like I think after a few years, maybe 1 or 2 years, like my brother pulled me across the side. He's like, I don't remember the full lecture or speech that he gave me, but it was amongst the lines of like, don't be an idiot, focus on the class, and like if you're gonna get good, you got to like actually pay attention,
Yeah.
And he was like a lot older. He was like, not sure how much older. He was like 12 or 13 at the time.
Yeah.
And
he was pursuing his tennis.
yeah.
Career
But he knew, he was old enough to understand how to focus properly
Yes.
and actually learn stuff. Whereas like at 6 years old, you're not really entirely focused on those processes,
Yeah.
And then like once he said like, if you don't pay attention, you're not going to get good, And then like that basically was like, oh, I want to get good at it because I liked it, And then like it kind of just spiraled on from there. And then that's basically it.
Yeah, and it was actually interesting because you found one club that you stayed for a very long period of time. I think nearly 7 or 8 years, right?
No, I think it was longer, like almost 10 years.
Yeah, almost 10 years.
Yeah.
And do you remember the conversations that we used to have when both everyone in the whole family was talking to you and going, okay, so what do you want to do out of this? You're putting a lot of hours in. Are you getting the right kind of training? Do you know what your goals are? And at that stage, I know you wanted to get to be the best, but the training was the one thing that I think you realized, but you also had a great deal of loyalty to the place. And I think that was a very, very difficult decision for you to actually leave something and to search for, I suppose, training that would be in a different level. and a lot of people get very, very comfortable doing the same thing. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Like, at least for me, in my particular situation, it was a combination of a lot of things, but like also like at the start, it seemed initially at least like I was being developed to like be a world champion, you know. But then as you like as other people's kind of goals and motivations change, and like mine kind of always stayed the same,
Yes.
but their kind of goals and motivations change, and that leads into it leads to an environment that's not conducive to like each person's kind of like idea of what they want to do with the rest of their life, you know.
Yes.
And then so basically like at that point in time, like I decided to leave. Like I had already had, and also like I had exposure to higher level training at that point, obviously
Yeah.
training with my friend Levi and a bunch of
Yeah.
other guys as well.
Yeah.
And so I was always I like trained with other guys with a little bit as well, if you like at that time as well, like I was doing sessions at that main gym and also another gym on the side.
Yes.
And like basically what happened is you become aware of initially I thought the environment I was in was conducive to becoming world champion at the time.
Yeah.
And then as you kind of learn and develop later on, like it was important, it was important for me to change. That wasn't like the necessary it wasn't really the necessary reason for me to leave. Like it was a little bit of other things which I don't really want to get into, but I realized that the environment I was in wasn't conducive towards my goals, you know.
Yeah.
And I had to change my environment, okay, and to one that was conducive towards my goals, and I was surrounded by people who had a very similar mindset, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was actually interesting because, you know, I think it was me and mum who kept on telling you, you know, where do you want to go?
Yeah.
How are you going to get there? And you were the one that was so loyal to staying where you were, and at the end, circumstances, I suppose, happened whereby you met Levi and you understood the difference in the mentality and the training between being world champion and being average.
Yeah. And also like the place I was at they weren't really focused on making world champions, you know.
No.
They're just like
It was more of a commercial gym versus a gym that is set up for people who want to have aspirational goals, big goals, audacious goals, who want to succeed.
Yeah. So so that's basically it, you know. I just met a group of people that kind of like had the very similar mindset to me and wanted to like be the best in their division, you know.
Yes.
And then you kind of like you develop relationships with those people, and you kind of what do you call it? You kind of throw yourself into that mix a little bit.
Yes.
So basically the environment that I was in just it wasn't suited for what I wanted to do with my life, you know.
Yeah.
Like it was more of a place for people to do it as a hobby, whereas like the people I'm with now also the same people.
Yeah.
They're focused on becoming world champions, you know. So
yeah. It's actually interesting because in my line of work, I often see the environment pan out in the way the attitudes and behaviors of the people, even from the boss, from the owner of the business to the sales director to the salespeople. The environment and the culture is so important to developing high performance, and a lot of people get very, very complacent. You know, they just put up with the average.
Yeah, so that can happen, you know. But like what also people don't understand is that like trying to be the best in something, it's like it's simultaneously a great experience, but it's also a miserable experience, you know.
Yes.
Like I know for me when I'm training every day, I'm like I wake up in the morning and I'm like, listen, I don't want to swear, but like I'm like F my life, you know.
Yeah. Yes.
Like, I'm sore, I'm hurting, you know, and I'm sure there's like a sales equivalent, you know, but like that's like kind of what's necessary to go through if you want to get good at something, you know. Like
there's going to be some pain.
Yeah, there's always going to be some like we talked about this, like like consequence over pain, you know. Like if there's no consequence, then you should go ahead with it. Like in jiu-jitsu, you're gonna let your foot pop or your elbow pop in a match because you can still train afterwards.
Yes.
Okay. Even though it's gonna hurt a lot. Okay. But you're still able to train, you know. Whereas if it's a knee or a neck, that's when you kind of tap out because that's when you can get injured and put out of training.
Yeah.
I assume there's like a sales equivalent of that, you know, like
well, it's rejection. And it was actually interesting, you know, we were talking about motivation and resilience. I can still remember I was talking to you about how so many salespeople can't handle rejection. And I remember you lying on the couch and you said to me, "It's just a word." No, how can it hurt you? It says if you want to be hurt, go into a jiu-jitsu match. That's when you'll actually get hurt. And pain is in the mind, and it can control people so this fear. And it was actually interesting to understand how you're quite willing to have your elbow popped in a match, your ankle popped out. I mean, your level is very high. People don't know, but you're ranked in the top 4 or 5 in the world in your weight group and in your belt group, which is in the blue, and you're working to become world champion there. How do you accept that you're going to get hurt?
It's like you kind of have to psychologically damage yourself in a way. Like the way at least that I go through it is that like I like it's metaphorically like throwing yourself in the fire, you know, like
Yes.
what do you call it? Like so I basically like I'm like I'll be like in my head I'm like try and break my foot, you know.
Yes.
I'm just like I'm like go ahead break it, you know. And
Yes.
like I tend to sometimes I'll say things to my friends in training. I'll like they'll get like a foot look and I'll be like break it cunt, you know.
Yes.
In this style like what do you call it? It's like you got to willingly like if you willingly put yourself in painful spots, you're just able to endure so much more. It's not like it hurts any less. Like
Yes.
it's always gonna hurt and it's always gonna suck. You just gotta you just put yourself in that position and then it doesn't hold any power over you, you know?
Yeah.
But it's not like it's the experience still doesn't suck, you know? Like I'm sure rejection, like if you like if you like watch, I don't know, just I assume there's a video on like you see videos on YouTube where people try and get rejected or do like funny things. Like they're kind of like I guarantee you they're like they're nervous as hell going before doing that.
Yeah.
But just like they just willingly put themselves into that spot and then it has like no power over them.
That's right. So you've got to be able to embrace the uncertainty and push beyond that barrier, because you really don't know what you're capable of until you actually touch that point.
And also it's coming back to that consequence thing, you know,
Yes.
like there's no real consequence. Like if there's probably a situation in sales where like if you get a no, it's gonna hurt your career, you know. So don't do that, you know. Like
Some reality, right?
yeah. So you know, there's like it's like pick and choose your battles, you know.
That's right. Yeah, apply a bit of common sense.
Yeah.
I suppose if we talk about an area about thinking and strategizing, you know, I'm really big on that. The ability to utilize your intelligence to outthink people. And jiu-jitsu is a sport that requires a sharp brain, an ability to think quickly, to change your strategy. And you know, if you've got a losing strategy, why do you lose? You know, change it, do something different. And how do you sort of understand when you've got a losing strategy and that you're going to make a decision to change it?
So for me, like it's about like being very honest with yourself, you know. Like for me, like whenever like say sparring or rolls in the gym.
Yes.
So basically after every round or after every session, like I go through every situation that I lose, you know.
Yes.
And you have to be like kind of brutal with yourself with it. It's like
so you do like a post analysis.
Yeah. That's like a fancy way of putting it, you know.
Yeah, well, that's what we do with, you know, we have a program, an online program whereby we have a lot of salespeople who work very one-on-one with me, and every deal is analyzed. There's a post analysis, like you know, it's like football teams do an analysis of videos, you know, of their game. So you're doing the same thing.
Yeah. So like even one of my friends that I trains with, he records every single sparring session.
Yeah.
Like without fail, you know, and that like that gives them you're just able to objectively analyze the situations that you're in, you know, and it's important to that. And also you don't have to only learn from your own mistakes, you know. You can watch like for me, I watch a bunch of other people's matches. I'm like, okay, these are like I look for comment. I don't know if this applies to sales, but at least in sports, I look for positions where like where the match is won and lost, you know. And I look at certain positions that guys are weak in, and then I try and make those my strength personally.
Yes.
You just look at the spots where things are won and lost, and you try and find the like what makes something work, you know.
Yeah,
And this like what they're called concepts, you know.
that's right.
But you just look at what makes the position or the transition work, and then you kind of like go off that, and you try and find the commonalities in each position. I don't know, I'm going on a rant here, but
No, that's fine. That's fine. It's really, really interesting. You know, winning, losing, purpose are all important aspects of virtually. You know, you're moving towards becoming a professional athlete, and the difference between learning versus winning. And a lot of people don't grasp that learning is what you're after.
Yeah.
Winning comes as a consequence of learning, and if you focus on the winning, you will tend to repeat mistakes over and over again. And there are so many people in the sales industry who absolutely make the same mistakes 100 times over their lives, over and over again, and they just want to get deals, but they never want to learn. And one of the most interesting things is I've got around about 35 salespeople whose whole focus is on learning, and guess what? They've all doubled their income. So it shows don't focus on doing deals, focus on learning. How do you apply that into what you're doing?
So for me personally, I'm a very like winning motivated person, but basically what I use the winning as like fuel to learn, you know, like I personally, like when I go into a training session, like I want to win every single position, you know, but I like if I lose the position or if I don't do as well as I thought I could, then like that's when you use the opportunity to learn, you know. You don't like people confuse winning with aggression, you know. Like no, like being aggressive, like I'm not sure what the equivalent of aggression is for sales, but
same thing. You have a lot of aggressive salespeople who have no idea that aggression is not the hallmark of a very successful person in itself. I really don't like aggressive people.
So like you got like yes, like in general, you're just not gonna like someone who's like aggressive, whether they're putting ideas on you or like trying to force you to buy a car or whatever, you know. But like but at least in a sports context, like aggression isn't always what makes you win, you know. It's about like you want to, like for me, I want to win so badly, like in training or in competition. You don't want to make it in like an unhealthy way, you know. Like you gotta like sometimes winning, like being able to win in the long term and also in the short term, like requires you to put your ego aside for a little bit and learn something, you know. You want to win the situation so badly, use that winning to help you learn about the situation even more, and then you can actually get better.
It's about learning the situation, not the end result.
Yes. So like you learn the situation and eventually it leads to the result, but you can also work backwards, you know. You can also work the result, like you can reverse engineer stuff. For example, this is something I'm very big on in jiu-jitsu. Like I'll watch a transition that I succeeded in, you know, like for people who know jiu-jitsu, like a knee cut. And like, so basically I look at the knee cut, I look at it over and over again. I look at other great knee cutters. So a knee cut is a specific move, sorry. But so I look at other great knee cutters and I look at the common themes in each knee cutter and like what the winning conditions are for it. And then you kind of figure out what works. And then if certain things blocks it, then you got to figure out how to, so say they do a certain reaction that blocks the knee cut, then you got to figure out something else to go around it, you know. And that's being like, in my head, that's being like fueled by winning, but you're also learning at the same time, you know. Like it's not just more aggression. Like aggression is like, at least in sports, obviously it's very good, but as long as it's channeled in the right way, that's the main thing, you know.
I've seen it too often. It's very, very unhealthy for many people who think, you know, you've got to be totally aggressive, you've got to, and I am totally of the opposite. Calm, assertive behavior that is focused on moving forward is the most important thing. Now, one of the key things is, and it's a common thing that happens in life, it happens specifically in business, it happens very much in sports, is scoreboard pressure. You know, and in jiu-jitsu, you know, I've been to a lot of your fights, and it's probably one of the most adrenaline-fueled things that I've ever been in. I've watched tennis matches that have gone on for 2 or 3 hours, and you know, that is a totally different totally different atmosphere to seeing, what is a 6 minute, 5 minute fight, something like that.
It goes anywhere from 6 minutes to 10 minutes.
10 minutes. And the adrenaline that makes you be so submerged into the event. When you see that time clock and you see the points for you and your opponent, scoreboard pressure, how do you react to that? Because that's a really key thing, because, you know, for sales, it's like, oh, I'm not meeting my quota this month. I'm not meeting my quota. I'm not getting enough, you know, meetings, deals, money, whatever. How do you deal with that kind of pressure on that aspect?
So it depends on, obviously, like in a strictly sporting context. At the start of the match, obviously, I try and control the points a lot more. So if I can stay ahead, I'm going to stay ahead.
Yes.
But there's obviously sometimes in a match you mess up, and then like something happens to you and you're down on the score. You know, like that's at that point. You know, like for me, whenever I'm down, I'm on a hustle. You know, at that point, like we're talking about aggression not being so good earlier. Like in the points, at least in jiu-jitsu, when you're down, that's when you got to turn up the aggression, you know? So like whenever, especially when there's time pressure on me, like I have like certain points in the match where I turn up certain pressures.
Yes.
Not certain, but pressure in general. But like I have certain points in the match where I turn it up.
Yeah.
But like in general, if I'm like, what do you call it? If I'm on top so basically if the time pressure and the score pressure is on them, I'm basically like, I'm still, like, for me personally, my style is very like aggressive in terms of a lot of movement and stuff. But in terms of I'm trying to find the right way to put this together. But I don't take any unnecessary risks, you know. But if you're what do you call it? If like I'm down, you know, like I'm gonna pull out all the stops.
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna do
go for it.
You know, but in general, for me, like what's the way I like to fight is like this is kind of like an approach to like just like how I like to compete in general. Like I like to just not worry about consequence whatsoever. So I kind of just like I'd much rather fight with my heart on my sleeve than fight in a way that's not me. You know, like
be yourself.
Yeah, being myself. Like an example was like my last match that I had. Like I lost.
Yes.
I lost it, but what do you call it? But like I lost, but I much rather like fight like that than fight like someone who I didn't. If I fought in a way that was very stally and like not pushing the action, you know, like I'd be less proud of myself than if I fought that way. You know, like I'd much rather wear my heart on my sleeve when I fight.
That's an interesting point. So when you lose, how do you handle that?
To be honest, it doesn't change much. I'm just like, I just like obviously something like I'm not gonna let it influence. Like I consider jiu-jitsu and my personal life two different things, so I'm not gonna let jiu-jitsu impact how I feel like emotionally inside of it. You know, so like if I lose, I'm like, fuck that sucks. You know, but like
that's it.
Yeah, that's it. You know, you go back to the drawing board. You see when I'm in the training room, I come back harder and I become like a crazy person.
Yes.
But
yeah, it's interesting because with so many salespeople, when they lose a deal, they'll think about that loss for, you know, days, weeks, and you can sit down with them with a cup of coffee 6 months later on, and they'll still remember, I lost that deal, and so and so and so and so, and they actually have not learned the art of moving on, and they still harbor resentment and anger towards that person. And I'm going, you know, life's too short to be worrying about these things. You know, learn from that experience and move on, become a better person.
Yeah, it's very at least in my experience as an athlete, you know, because as I said, like I wear my heart on my sleeve every time I fight.
Yes.
But I think it's very hard to not carry that with you, but you just got to not it. Like you can't let a little stuff like that, you know, like negatively impact you. You know, like
yes. It affects your whole persona, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Like life's too short to worry about that kind of stuff. You know, like how important is a match or a deal unless it's like the biggest deal in the world? Like if say I don't know how much money is considered a big deal, but for me, I don't know, $1 million or something.
Yes.
You know, I'll be kicking myself I'll be kicking myself in the butt for like the next 3 years if I lost something like that. You know, but like if
it's an accumulation, you go, well, okay, it's like
but don't let it negatively impact you. You know, let the negative experience make you a little make you better at what you're doing. You know, that's the main thing.
Yeah, I think one of the most important things that we all understand is learning to become a better version of yourself all the time.
Yeah.
You know, it's all about character defining. And I think a lot of people, specifically in an area where I work with, actually don't see character as the most important thing. Whereas I think it's one of the most important things. An individual must develop good character. And, you know, it's about your identity as a human being. You know, where are you going? Who are you helping with? And, you know, this is, you know, you've got to look at a range of goals. You know, I was actually thinking about you last year, and it was interesting because you were in New York in January preparing for, what was it?
After Euros, it was Pens.
And then you were in New York and the whole COVID thing came, and you actually flew back on the plane. You contracted COVID last year. And training was very, very difficult. Fortunately, you had gym mats, and I can still remember you training at 6 o'clock in the morning with the gym mats outside, raining, and you did it for months, 6-7 months, nonstop, every day, no matter what. So, you know, when you think about a goal, are you the kind of person that writes it out, or it's just burnt into your consciousness?
I don't really have to think about it. So, for me, it's pretty simple. I just have one goal, you know, just win worlds.
That's
but I have like little micro goals, and like I'm not like it's not like I'm a full on like inspirational Instagram person. You know, I'm like, you know, I write like in terms of like technical goals and things. I write work on specific transition, you know, work on this position. So
you actually do a debrief and you write it on your phone on certain things. So you're actually you're very methodical with improvement.
Yeah. So like I just note down everything. Like in general, I'm just a big note taker. Like I note down things like emotions. I note down experiences. I note down just like different things outside of jiu-jitsu, in jiu-jitsu. There's different things. Like if I have an experience one night, I write that down. I'm just a note taker in general, but I don't feel like it's like a must.
Yes.
Like, you know, I feel like if you want to do it, you want to do it. If you don't and you can remember it in your head, just as long as you remember it, that's the main thing. Just don't forget stuff.
I don't think putting it in your head is very conducive to remembering stuff and working on it, because there's only so much things you can remember and so much space you have, and it's a good thing to be able to put it down, take your thoughts down, look at it, and then strategize to improve yourself. Now, one of the key things is emotional reactions, loving what you do. How important do you think that is?
My opinion on that has changed over the years. Before I said you have to like love completely what you do. Like now my opinion has kind of changed. I think if you just do it, if you do something like intense enough for like a long enough time and put in like the volume, you know, like the training volume, then you'll be good at it no matter what, you know. Like for me, like I would say like people are surprised when they hear this, but like jiu-jitsu isn't something that like I need in my life, you know. It's like it's what do you call it? It's like I have like a passion for winning. I mean, I have a passion for like something I want to experience is like beating my chest at the end of that comp and being like, you know, on the best type things. That's like that's what I really get out of it, you know. But like in terms of like hard training and stuff, I don't really enjoy it. I love training hard. I just don't love doing that over and over again.
I think everyone needs some time away to recharge the batteries, otherwise you get burnt out. And you know, in tennis, as you know, big part of what I know about is periodization, is learning in bulk periods during the year. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't actually think about it that way, and that's part of the reasons why they use the term grind and hustle, which I hate. Because if everything is a grind and everything's a hustle, then to me it means like you really are working hard against yourself. You know, you're pushing this way and another force is pushing this way.
I feel like the people who say those kind of things, they don't actually know what it means to
No,
properly work hard, you know? Like,
yes,
it's like if you're talking about grinding and hustling every day, you're probably spending too much time on Instagram instead of grinding and hustling, you know?
that's right. Yeah, I would tend to agree with you on that area. So, Varun, one thing I've always have, I suppose, a key thing a lot of people that I work with, and also you've probably seen it in the gym, is taking instruction from the instructor. Often you think you know better, and sometimes you go, no, I want to try it my own way, and then you go, oh, I should have done it that way. What's been, I suppose, a lesson for you in taking instruction? And one of the key things about learning knowledge and how you process knowledge is to take the information, try it, do it to the best of the ability. If it doesn't work, you reassess and find out why. Not you don't go, no, I'm not taking, it's something new, I don't want to do it, it's going to play, it's going to mess around with my current type of processes, and I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Is that something that you experience and you go, no, I've got to change?
Yeah. So for me, it happened more outside of jiu-jitsu context in terms of like parents and things. I'm only 20 now, or 19.
Yeah.
But like I remember like outside in a jiu-jitsu context, I was always very good. I was like, in general, I'm like a monkey see, monkey do type of person. I'm not like the brightest of the bunch, so I just like follow what I'm told. But in most cases,
you're bright.
Yeah. But in terms of outside of a jiu-jitsu context, like following advice from you and mom, like I was always kind of like it was saying like it always seems like the worst idea ever, but then like you just try it out and then like it happens to work out, and you also have other situations where you try and do it your way and it's like not so good. You're like, oh, why didn't I do that? I kind of regret that now. Because, I can imagine like you're saying earlier that like people don't know how to separate like work life and what do you call it, and their personal life apart in things. So I can imagine people would be like, they'll be like, no, that's stupid, It's like, it's worth it just to like
to try it.
It's worth it to try something out, like if the result of the situation ends up badly, then just be like, oh fuck, that's stupid, But if it works out, then great, it's worth trying everything out once, It's like just once, maybe don't do it in a high consequence situation, but in a low consequence situation, I don't know, like if you're selling the equivalent, I don't know, you're selling something that's not a big deal, then if you're selling something that's not a big deal, it's worth it to try out different concepts and different things in a low pressure situation, and then and you can kind of just see what works, like I can imagine, like I said earlier, I can imagine people from your thingy can will be like, no, I like they're resistant to kind of like the whole thing, because they're like the people are always skeptical of new things, right? So
that's right.
So they don't fully know what to expect and they don't kind of follow through. But like if you follow through on a new kind of program, or I don't know exactly, but like a new technique, a new concept, they just like, if they follow through on that a little bit and they can just test out and see what the result actually is, it can like it could be like actually really positive. You know?
Like, you don't know until you try, right?
Like you say something like what do you call it, like do it and do whatever the thing is and then evaluate after.
Right. Do it and evaluate.
That's worth it. Like you always and there's also like there's always going to be like like you're always going to end up in those same situations over and over again, like I know in sports a little bit, like I end up in the same positions over and over again. If something doesn't work one time, it's just one time, you can just,
but if it works,
dive in the next one.
But if it's consistent and you keep on making the same mistake, then it's time to reevaluate what you're doing and to go, can I do something about it? And I don't think a lot of people apply a lot of critical thinking to continual failure. They keep on thinking the secret is to work hard, but not to take a time out, strategize, reevaluate, do some analysis. And there must be can you imagine, if you didn't do this in critical areas such as surgery. You know, my father is a retired plastic surgeon, and one of the key things you always evaluate failure, and you always learn from failure. Otherwise, you keep on making the same mistake, and on the operating table, you can't do that. And I'm afraid most people don't understand how this works, and they become a hostage to it. It's such a key thing to do. Reevaluate failure.
Yeah, I think what most people like, I don't think that most people understand is that like when you're reevaluating failure, it is like the most emotionally stressful thing. You know, like you're like whether it be like cringing hard, or you're just like you feel like those emotions, like the high intensity emotions again. Like even right now, I'm just thinking of like a particular situation, and I'm like, oh fuck, you know, and like going over those situations again in your head is like really, really emotionally stressful. And it's like it's not necessarily good for your mental health, but it's necessary to get better. And it's like it ends up being better in the long run, but just not necessarily good short term. But
I think it's important that you just said one thing really, really important. It might not be good for your mental health, but it might be good for your progress in what you want to do. And I think a lot of people sometimes evaluate mental health with improvement, and you know,
to be good at something, you have to be like,
you have to be able to accept that.
You have to like, you know, that's when you decide like what you want to do in your life, you know. For I know at least if you want to be an elite sports, like it sucks, you know, like you're only living for like one moment. At least for me, I'm living for like one moment in the future, and like eventually you want to, if you don't want to live your life like that, then you're probably better off like shifting into something else.
That's right.
But, if you are the type of person like there's probably the equivalent of like that one moment for sales.
That's right.
But
if you're willing to do that, then you'll get to the top, and you'll touch your potential.
But that's
if
like,
you don't, then don't.
Then you're probably better off like understanding that you're not going to be the best.
Yes.
Okay, but you can stay like, you can have like a little more mental sanity.
Yeah, a bit more. You can be satisfied with being, I hate to say it, with being comfortable.
Yeah, like for certain people, that's not the worst thing though.
That's right. That's right. Everyone has to choose their own.
Yeah, like for
but don't want to be the best without actually understanding that what it takes to be the best is to have mental anguish, is to have challenges in your life, both mentally and physically and emotionally.
The thing about being the best is like it sucks like I'd say 90% of the time, and then like you have those one or two moments that make it really worth it.
Yeah,
right. That's how I describe it. You know, whereas if you want to lead a life where you're kind of enjoying every day, then you're gonna understand that you're probably not going to be the best. You know, like there are very few people like my coach Marilla who generally get enjoyment from just like grinding hard every day, and and they're very mentally tough.
Yeah,
you know, he's just a very special person like that, and he can do that. You know, but those are like the exceptions. You know, but
that's right. And I think a lot of people want their cake and eat it too, and they don't actually understand the reality of, if you want to progress, then you need to be doing different things. You need to be you need to be involved in a discomfort zone for virtually most of your time, and accept it. And you and I both talked about how it's so funny that people get medals for turning up, medals for eating your lunch, medals for this, medals for that, and that doesn't reflect life. And I think the people who strive to be up there have accepted that there is going to be some mental anguish, that you will feel the pressure both mentally, and it will drain you, it will wipe you out, but you're living for that moment whereby it all becomes worthwhile. You're willing to pay the dues. And a lot of people want the cake, but they don't want to put the ingredients to work.
I think it's just the idea of it seems really nice, but they just don't. A lot of people just aren't aware, people don't.
And when you tell them that, they don't want to hear it either.
People are just like that, People got to understand that you can't be like a normal. you can't be a balanced or like a normal human being like to be good at anything, you know, or like to be, you can be good at anything by like being a normal human being and being very balanced, but to be like the absolute best in something, it's like you can't be normal, you know. Like you're gonna have some kind of like emotional damage in sports, physical damage as well.
That's the reality.
Yeah, you just can't be a normal person, you know. If you value being a normal person, like it you can have a social life, but like a very active social life outside of your work, then it's probably going to be like what do you call it? It's going to be very hard, you know. I'm not going to say it's impossible. Obviously, nothing's impossible, but it's going to be very hard, you know. You can't be normal, you know.
I suppose it's what I call people living in delusional aspirations, whereby, you know, putting a little bit of effort in will get you a whole lot. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, it's like it's easy. You can put in a little bit of effort to become good. I think to become good and to become satisfied, you can put in a little bit of effort, and you do that consistently over time, you'll get like decent results. But to be like the absolute best, like the 1%, you know, like you got to be kind of psychotic, you know, like it's or like I'm not sure if
intense. Let's put it intense.
Yeah, intense. You got to. It's like like if you look at blokes like Michael Jordan, Steve Jobs, like I guarantee you they would be the worst human beings on the face of this planet to hang out with, you know, like they'd be like,
they're so intensely driven to succeed, to win.
But that's just like they valued that, you know. They valued like being the best at their thing, or like creating the iPhone or whatever, you know. But but if you want to like be a normal person and not like that, it's important to understand that you're not going to achieve that, but that's not a bad thing necessarily. It's just a different kind of lifestyle.
That's right. We're gonna. There's one thing that we'll talk about is energy, right? And I remember you coming back because we went to New York a couple of times. You trained and you met Luke Rockhold and a few other people, but that was a few years ago. But when you came back, and we were just having a discussion about the intensity and the energy of people in New York versus what you felt was the intensity and energy of people in, say, in Sydney, Australia, and you had a great deal of, because you're very, very attuned to energy. I know that, and you can sense it in any environment. And you said something very, very telling. And what was that about the energy in New York, about the people in New York versus the energy of people in Australia in general?
Yeah, so like in New York, it's like everyone talks about like the hustle and bustle, you know.
Yes.
Like it's people are like they're a lot more motivated to like get shit done, you know. Like they're very like in tune with like their goals and like the American dream kind of thing. And there's a culture around like the American dream, like they have a lot more people. You can even see in like their college football programs, you know, like they don't care about their education level, whatever. They just chuck them into the program, and like they place a lot more emphasis on going all in or all out. Whereas over here in Australia, like there's a lot more focus on being balanced, and that's obviously just the culture over here. Australians are very laid back and kind of go with the flow kind of people. And it's like it's a very like different energy, you know. And like I reckon both are good. I think it's good to have a little bit of both, because obviously if you're just a hustle and bustle kind of person, like when you're old, unless you're someone like Steve Jobs, you know, or like or whatever, like no one's really like, if you're an athlete, you know, like if you're 70 years old, you're not really, at least the way that I feel like no one's really going to give a shit about your accomplishments by the time you hit 70. You know, there's going to be a new hot thing on the block, you know. There's going to be a new a new hot shot on the block, and just like your accomplishments aren't going to mean much. So that's why, at least for athletes, I think it's important to get a little bit of the laid back in the culture as well. But also I think it's good to have, I see less problem in being more of a laid back problem I see less problem in being more of a laid back person, because it's a lot easier to live life that way, and it's a lot more sustainable.
Yes.
But
it's obviously not going to get you.
It's not being a laid back kind of person is going to be hard to accomplish goals, you know. It's about like we're talking earlier, like putting yourself in certain environments that are conducive to what you want. You know.
It's interesting because I'm a fairly intense type of person. And I expect everyone, if you are to work with me, there's only one objective, which is to improve, and you do whatever it takes. Don't come to a training session if you're just sitting there just to tick the boxes. I'm not interested in that. And I think that's the same mentality that you have. If you're going to do it, you're going to do it to the best of your ability.
Yeah. That's the plan for the next few years at least. We know that after that, I kind of want to do the more chilled, laid back thing. But for the meantime, I'm going fairly hard for like
absolutely,
the moment.
and this is the time to do it.
Yeah.
Varun, been really, really good talking to you. We're going to finish off, and I will definitely be catching up with you later on, and I'll see you soon.